The discovery, the red dust of Mars swirled around Dr. Elena Vasquez's boots as she stood at the edge of the excavation site. She had been digging in this frozen wasteland for 3 years, and today, everything changed. "Doctor, you need to see this," her assistant Tom called from below. His voice cracked with excitement through the radio. Elena climbed down the metal ladder into the pit. The team had been drilling through layers of ancient ice near the Martian North Pole. What they found should not exist. A wall of crystal stretched before them, glowing with a soft blue light. It was smooth and perfect, without a single crack or mark. The material did not match anything in their databases. It was not ice. It was not rock. It was something else entirely. "How deep does it go?" Elena asked. "We don't know," Tom replied. "The scanners can't penetrate it. It's like the readings just stop." Elena stepped closer. The crystal hummed with energy. She could feel it in her bones, a vibration that seemed to match her heartbeat. Without thinking, she reached out and pressed her palm against the surface. The world exploded into light. Information poured into her mind like water from a broken dam. Images, numbers, words and languages she should not understand, but somehow did. She saw stars and ships and terrible battles across the darkness of space. She saw Earth as it was tens of thousands of years ago, covered in cities that reached into the clouds. She saw humanity spreading across the galaxy like a wildfire. Then she saw them, the Devourers, machines that ate worlds and stars. They came from beyond the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. The ancient humans fought back with weapons that could tear reality apart, but it was not enough. They were pushed back, further and further, until only Earth remained. Before they fell, the Ancient Ones built a final defense, a fleet of warships, hidden in the deepest dark, waiting for the day when humanity would rise again and the Devourers returned. Elena gasped and fell backward. Tom caught her before she hit the ground. "Doctor, are you okay?" She stared at him with wild eyes. "I know where they are. I know where the ships are hidden." Within hours, the message reached Earth. Within days, every major government and military organization demanded answers. Within a week, Elena stood before the United Earth Command in Geneva, explaining what seemed impossible. "You're telling us that humans existed in space 50,000 years ago?" General Morrison asked. He was a large man with gray hair and a face that showed he did not believe easy stories. "Not just in space," Elena replied. "They controlled hundreds of star systems. They had technology we can barely imagine, and they built a fleet to protect us when we were ready." "Ready for what?" Admiral Marcus Chen asked. He was younger than Morrison, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "For the return of the Devourers. The ancient records show they move through the galaxy in cycles. They consume everything, then move to the next galaxy. It takes them about 50,000 years to circle back." The room fell silent. "You're saying something is coming to destroy us?" Morrison said slowly. "Yes, and the only thing that can stop them is already out there waiting." The coordinates Elena received pointed to the Oort cloud, the vast ring of ice and rock that surrounded the solar system. It was so far from the sun that it took light hours to reach it. No human had ever traveled there. Admiral Chen was given command of the expedition. They assembled a fleet of 12 ships, the largest exploration force Earth had ever sent into deep space. The journey would take 3 months. Elena went with them. The crystal artifact had chosen her as its messenger, and she felt drawn to whatever waited in the dark. She spent the voyage studying the information that had been burned into her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the ancient war playing out across the stars. The other crew members watched her with nervous eyes. Some said she was touched by something alien, that she was no longer fully human. Elena wondered if they were right. On the 93rd day of the journey, their sensors detected something massive ahead. "This is impossible," the science officer whispered as the readings came through. "The structure is larger than Earth's moon." As they drew closer, the installation revealed itself. It hung in the void like a sleeping giant, a vast ring of dark metal studded with docking ports and defense platforms. And inside the ring, Perfectly preserved in some kind of stasis field were the ships. They were beautiful and terrible. Each one stretched for kilometers, their hulls covered in patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. They did not look ancient. They looked ready for war. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, staring at the fleet through the view screen. "How many?" he asked quietly. 300 capital ships, the sensor officer reported, plus thousands of smaller support vessels. "Sir, each of those capital ships is 10 times the size of our largest carrier." Chen turned to Elena. "Can we access them?" She nodded. "The crystal showed me how. We need to dock at the Central Command Core." The command core was a massive sphere at the center of the ring. As their ship approached, the ancient station came to life. Lights flickered on across its surface. Docking clamps extended to meet them. Elena led a team into the core, following the map in her mind. The corridors were wide and empty, built for a civilization that no longer existed. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. The command chamber was enormous, filled with holographic displays and control systems. At its center stood a pedestal with a human-shaped impression. "It's waiting for someone," Chen said. Elena walked forward and placed her hands in the impressions. The station responded instantly. Holographic images filled the chamber, showing the ancient humans in their final days. They spoke in languages that were ancestors to every tongue on Earth, warning their descendants of what was coming. "We could not stop them," a woman's voice said. Her holographic image showed someone who looked almost human but taller and stronger. "We gave everything we had, but the Devourers are infinite. They adapt to every weapon, learn from every defeat. We were forced to choose between extinction and survival. We chose survival." The images shifted, showing humans abandoning their cities and colonies, fleeing back to Earth. They destroyed all records of their civilization, forcing humanity to start again from the beginning. It was the only way to hide from the Devourers, to make them believe humans were extinct. "But we left you a gift," the ancient woman continued. "The Stormbreaker fleet. 300 ships crewed by our finest warriors, placed in eternal sleep. They will wake only when humanity has rediscovered space travel and our enemies return. When that day comes, you will have the weapons you need to finish what we started." The hologram faded, and a new display appeared. It showed the galaxy, with thousands of red dots spreading inward from the rim. "What are those?" Chen asked, though he already knew the answer. "The Devourers," Elena whispered. "They're back. They've entered our galaxy and they're heading for the colonies." Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Long-range sensors had detected the threat. The Devourers had already consumed 3 outer colonies. Millions were dead. The Stormbreaker fleet began to wake. Awakening the Titans, the first ship to wake was the Thunderhead, the flagship of the ancient fleet. Admiral Chen watched through the view screen as the massive vessel shuddered and came to life. Lights ran along its hull in patterns that looked almost like breathing. The ship was waking up after 50,000 years of sleep. "All systems are activating," the sensor officer reported. "Power readings are off our charts. Sir, that single ship has more energy output than our entire fleet combined." Elena stood beside Chen, her hand still connected to the command pedestal. Through the link, she could feel the fleet stirring. 300 ancient minds, not quite alive but not quite machines either. They had been waiting so long in the dark. "The ships are semi-sentient," she explained. The ancient humans merged their consciousness with the vessels. The crew became part of the ships themselves. It was the only way to create weapons powerful enough to fight the Devourers. "You mean those ships are alive?" Chen asked. "In a way. They're waiting for new crews to bond with them. Waiting for us." More ships began to wake. The Skybreaker, the Voidhammer, the Stellar Wrath. Each name carried the weight of ancient battles. The holographic displays showed their specifications, and what they revealed made modern Earth warships look like toys, weapons that could fold space and crush enemy vessels into singularities. Shields that existed in multiple dimensions at once, engines that could tear holes in reality itself to cross vast distances in moments. This was not technology. This was power that seemed like magic. "We need to get this information back to Earth immediately," Chen said. "The UEC needs to see what we've found." But the ancient command core had other ideas. New holograms appeared, showing the spread of the Devourers across the galaxy. They were moving faster than expected, consuming colonies and turning their resources into more of themselves. At their current speed, they would reach the core human worlds within 2 years. "We don't have time to wait," Elena said, reading the data flowing through her mind. The fleet was designed to activate during an emergency. This is that emergency. The ships want to fight now. "We can't crew 300 warships," Chen protested. "Earth's entire military is only 2 million personnel. These vessels each need thousands of crew members." "No," Elena corrected him. "They each need one." She pulled up the ancient files showing how the ships truly worked. Each Stormbreaker vessel required a single pilot who would merge their consciousness with the ship's quantum core. The pilot would become the ship, controlling every weapon and system through thought alone. The process was called neural fusion. "It's irreversible," Elena explained quietly. "Once someone bonds with a ship, they can never fully separate. They become something between human and machine." The ancient pilots knew they were giving up their humanity to save it. Chen stared at the information. "And if we don't do this? Then the Devourers will consume every human world just like they did last time. Except this time there won't be anyone left to hide on Earth and start over." The decision went all the way to the top of Earth's government. The United Earth Council met in emergency session, broadcast to every corner of human space. The debate lasted for 3 days. Some called it madness, asking humans to sacrifice their humanity. Others argued they had no choice. The outer colonies were already gone. New Eden, Prosperity Station, and the mining outpost at Kepler 442b had all gone silent. Long-range probes showed nothing but wreckage and the dark shapes of Devourer machines moving through the debris. In the end, the Council voted to activate the Stormbreaker fleet. But they needed volunteers. They needed 300 people willing to give up everything they were to become living weapons. The call went out across all human worlds. The requirements were strict. Pilots needed to be in perfect physical health, with neural patterns that could withstand the fusion process. Military experience was preferred but not required. What mattered most was willpower, the ability to hold on to your sense of self even as you merged with something vast and ancient. 50,000 people volunteered in the first week. Among them was Captain Sarah Chen, Admiral Chen's daughter. She was 32 years old, a decorated fighter pilot with 12 years of combat experience. She had fought against pirates in the Belt Wars and led rescue missions during the Titan colony disaster. When she heard about the Stormbreaker fleet, she knew she had to be part of it. Her father tried to talk her out of it. "You don't understand what you're volunteering for," he said when she arrived at the Oort Cloud station. "You won't be human anymore." "Neither were the people who built these ships," Sarah replied. "But they saved humanity anyway. If I can do the same, then it's worth it." Admiral Chen looked at his daughter and saw the determination in her eyes. It was the same look her mother had before she died defending a colony convoy. The Chen family had a tradition of sacrifice. "Then you'll pilot the Thunderhead," he said finally. "If you're going to do this, you'll do it as the fleet commander." The selection process took 2 weeks. The ancient command corps tested each volunteer, scanning their minds for compatibility. Many were rejected. The neural patterns did not match, or their willpower was too weak. Out of 50,000 volunteers, only 400 made it through the initial screening. Those 400 underwent intensive training. Elena and a team of scientists worked to understand the fusion process. It was not simply plugging your brain into a computer. It was allowing your consciousness to expand and merge with an artificial intelligence that had been sleeping for 50,000 years. "The ship will try to dominate you at first," Elena explained to the trainees. "It's been alone for so long it won't remember how to share space with a human mind. You need to push back, assert yourself. Make the ship remember that it was built to serve humanity, not replace it." The first fusion attempt was with a volunteer named Marcus Webb, a military engineer with 20 years of experience. He was connected to a ship called the Stormwarden, one of the smaller vessels in the fleet. For 3 hours, nothing seemed to happen. Webb lay in the neural cradle, his mind linked to the ship through thousands of quantum connections. Sensors showed his brain activity spiking and falling in violent waves. Then he opened his eyes and they glowed with a faint blue light. "I can feel it," Webb said, his voice echoing strangely. "I can feel the entire ship. Every system, every weapon. It's like having a new body that's kilometers long." I am the Storm Warden now. Can you separate? Elena asked carefully. Webb was quiet for a moment. I don't think I want to. This is beautiful. Over the next weeks, more pilots completed the fusion. Each one described the experience differently. Some said it was like drowning in an ocean of information. Others said it felt like waking up from a long dream. But all of them agreed on one thing. They were no longer entirely human. Sarah Chen was the last to undergo fusion. She insisted on waiting until all the other pilots were successfully bonded. Her father stood in the observation room as she was prepared for the neural cradle. I'm proud of you, he told her through the comm system. Your mother would be too, Sarah smiled. Take care of humanity, Dad. I'll take care of the Devourers. The fusion began. Sarah felt the Thunderhead's consciousness reaching out to her like a massive hand. It was ancient and powerful and alone. For 50,000 years it had waited in the dark, its crew long dead and merged with its systems. It remembered the war. It remembered losing. Sarah pushed back against the wave of despair and rage. We're not them, she said to the ship. We're their children. We learned from their mistakes. And this time we're going to win, the Thunderhead responded. Its consciousness wrapped around Sarah's like an embrace. They merged, becoming something new. Captain Sarah Chen ceased to exist as a separate being and became the living avatar of humanity's most powerful warship. When she opened her eyes, they glowed with blue fire. Stormbreaker fleet, she said, her voice broadcasting through every ship in the formation. This is Thunderhead Actual. All vessels report status. 300 voices answered as one. 300 pilots who had given up their humanity to save it. They were ready. Then let's go end this war, Sarah commanded. The fleet moved as a single entity, jumping through folded space toward the front lines. The storm was about to break upon the Devourers, and this time humanity would not run. The price of Power Earth changed overnight. The discovery of the ancient civilization and the awakening of the Stormbreaker fleet shook humanity to its core. Every history book had to be rewritten. Every religious text was questioned. Humanity had not climbed slowly from caves to stars. They had done it before, reached heights unimaginable, and fallen so far they forgot they had ever flown. Riots broke out in major cities. Some people celebrated, claiming it proved humanity's greatness. Others protested, saying the ancient technology was too dangerous to use. Religious leaders argued about what it meant for their faiths. Scientists worked around the clock to understand technology that should not exist. President Amara Okoye addressed the United Earth Council from Geneva. Her face appeared on every screen across human space, projected into billions of homes. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, she began, her voice steady despite the chaos. We face a truth that changes everything we thought we knew. Our ancestors walked the stars long before recorded history. They built wonders we are only beginning to understand, and they fell to an enemy that is now returning. She paused, letting the words sink in. 3 colonies are already gone. New Eden, Prosperity Station, and Kepler 442b have been consumed by the Devourers. That is 5 million souls lost in the span of 2 weeks. The enemy moves faster than we anticipated. They adapt to every defense. They learn from every encounter. Our conventional forces are not enough. Images appeared on screens across the planet, showing the wreckage of the colonies. The Devourers had left nothing behind but twisted metal and silence. The Stormbreaker fleet represents our best chance at survival, President Okoye continued, but it comes at a terrible cost. 300 of our finest volunteers have undergone neural fusion, giving up their humanity to become living weapons. They did this knowing they could never go back. They did this to save us all. The president's voice grew stronger. We did not ask for this war. We did not ask to inherit the battles of our ancestors. But we will face it as they did, with courage, determination, and the absolute refusal to surrender. Humanity has died once before. We will not let it happen again. The speech helped calm some of the panic, but fear still gripped the population. Parents kept their children home from school. People stockpiled supplies, preparing for the worst. The stock markets crashed as investors fled to safe assets. Some tried to buy passage on ships heading to the furthest colonies, hoping distance would save them. It would not. The Devourers were spreading across the galaxy like a virus. Nowhere would be safe for long. At the Oort Cloud installation, now designated Forward Base Stormwatch, Admiral Chen coordinated the defense of human space. The Stormbreaker fleet had been divided into task forces. Most would remain near the front lines, engaging the Devourers wherever they appeared. 50 ships would stay back to defend Earth and the core worlds. Elena Vasquez worked with a team of scientists to understand the ancient technology. Every day brought new discoveries and new questions. The ships operated on principles that challenged fundamental physics. They drew power from quantum vacuum fluctuations. They created shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They fired weapons that literally erased matter from existence. "We're like children playing with nuclear weapons," one scientist said during a briefing. "We don't understand half of what these ships can do." "Then we better learn fast," Elena replied, "because the Devourers already know." The first combat encounter came sooner than expected. A Devourer scout fleet entered the Proxima Centauri system, home to 2 million human colonists. Long-range sensors detected them 3 days out from the colony world. Admiral Chen gave the order. "Send the Thunderhead and Task Force Hammer. Engage and destroy." 50 Stormbreaker ships jumped to Proxima Centauri. Sarah Chen led them, feeling the strange sensation of moving her new body across light years in seconds. The other pilots followed, their consciousnesses linked through the quantum communication network. They could feel each other's presence, share tactical information instantly, and coordinate with precision no conventional fleet could match. When they arrived in Proxima space, the Devourers were already attacking the colony. Sarah had seen the ancient records, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The Devourer ships were not elegant or beautiful like human vessels. They were masses of dark metal covered in protrusions and tendrils. They moved like living things, pulsing and shifting. As they approached the colony, they released clouds of smaller machines that fell like rain onto the planet's surface. "All ships, battle formation," Sarah commanded. "Weapons free. Show them why we're called Stormbreakers." The fleet opened fire. The ancient weapons were devastating. Gravity lances tore through enemy ships, crushing them into dense spheres of collapsed matter. Quantum disruptors unmade Devourer vessels at the molecular level, turning them into expanding clouds of atoms. Void cannons fired projectiles that punched holes in space-time itself, creating miniature black holes that consumed everything nearby. The Devourers adapted quickly. Their ships reformed after taking damage, growing new armor and weapons. They learned to dodge the gravity lances and shield against the quantum disruptors. But the Stormbreaker pilots were adaptive too. They changed tactics, coordinated attacks, found weak points in enemy formations. Sarah felt every hit her ship took as if it were her own body being struck. She felt the pain of the shields overloading, the strain of the weapons firing at maximum power. But she also felt the exhilaration of combat, the satisfaction of each enemy destroyed. "Thunderhead to all ships. Focus fire on the large one," she ordered, targeting a massive Devourer vessel that seemed to be coordinating the others. 50 ancient warships concentrated their weapons on a single target. The Devourer's shields held for 3 seconds before collapsing. The ship tried to adapt, tried to learn, but there was no time. It exploded in a flash of dark energy. The other Devourer ships retreated immediately. They jumped away into dark space, vanishing from sensors. "Did we win?" one of the pilots asked over the network. Sarah checked the tactical display. The colony was safe. They had driven off the enemy. But the cost made her heart sink. 8 Stormbreaker ships had been destroyed. 8 pilots were dead, their consciousness scattered across the void as their vessels were torn apart. Sarah had felt each death through the quantum link, experienced their final moments of pain and terror. "We survived," she said quietly. "That's all we can call it." On Earth, people celebrated the victory. News broadcasts showed footage of the battle, highlighting humanity's triumph over impossible odds. The Stormbreaker fleet was praised as saviors. Children played games pretending to be neural pilots. Artists created murals of the great ships. But Admiral Chen knew the truth. He stood in the command center reviewing the battle data. Dr. Vasquez joined him, her face grave. "The Devourers are learning too quickly," she said. "By the end of the battle, they were already adapting to our weapons. The ancient records show the same pattern. Each battle makes them smarter, harder to kill." "How did the ancients lose?" Chen asked. Elena pulled up a holographic timeline. "Attrition. They won most battles, but the Devourers never stopped coming. For every fleet destroyed, 3 more appeared. The ancient humans had thousands of worlds, but they could not defend them all. Eventually, they were pushed back to Earth and forced to choose between extinction and starting over." "How many Devourer ships are there?" "We don't know. The galaxy is vast, and they've had 50,000 years to spread. There could be millions, billions. The only way to stop them is to strike at their source. Chen studied the galactic map. Deep in the core, where stars packed so tightly they blurred together, was a dark zone. No signals came from there. No light escaped. It was where the ancient record said the Devourers had built their central manufacturing facility. Then that's where we need to go, he said. Elena shook her head. The ancients tried that. They sent their best fleet to destroy the core facility. None of them came back. We're not the ancients. We have something they didn't. What? We know we're going to die, Chen said bluntly. They went into that battle thinking they could win and come home. We know better. That makes us more dangerous. Over the next weeks, the Stormbreaker fleet fought battle after battle. They defended colonies, destroyed Devourer scout forces, and learned the terrible rhythm of the war. The pilots grew closer through their quantum link, sharing thoughts and memories. They were becoming something new, something that had never existed before, but they were also dying. One by one, ships fell in battle. The pilots felt each death like losing a piece of themselves. Sarah Chen held the fleet together through sheer force of will, but even she could feel the weight of loss pressing down. The Devourers continued to push deeper into human space. More colonies went silent. The council began discussing evacuation plans, moving populations to the furthest reaches of explored space. Admiral Chen called a meeting of all surviving pilots. Their holographic forms appeared in the command center, each one glowing with the blue light of their ships. We can't win by defense, he told them. We need to take the fight to them. We need to attack the Devourer home base at the galactic core. The pilots were silent for a moment. First contact, first blood. The Proxima Centauri system should have been safe. After the first Devourer attack was repelled, Admiral Chen had stationed 20 Stormbreaker ships there permanently. The colony world below held 2 million souls, families who had traveled across the stars to build new lives. They deserved protection, but the Devourers came back. They arrived without warning, dropping out of dark space in numbers that made Sarah Chen's heart freeze. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They filled the sensor displays like a swarm of locusts, each one hungry and relentless. All ships, battle stations, Sarah commanded through the quantum link. Call for reinforcements. We need every available vessel here now. The 20 Stormbreaker ships moved to intercept, but they were vastly outnumbered. The Devourers had learned from their first defeat. They came prepared this time, with vessels specifically designed to counter human weapons. The battle started badly and got worse. Sarah fired the Thunderhead's main weapons, sending gravity lances through the enemy formation. The beams crushed 3 Devourer ships into dense spheres of collapsed matter. But where those 3 fell, 10 more took their position. They adapted their shields, distributing the gravitational stress across their entire formation. They're learning too fast, one pilot shouted across the network. Stay focused, Sarah replied, even as she felt fear creeping through the quantum link. The pilots could sense each other's emotions, and fear was contagious. The Devourers unleashed their own weapons, beams of dark energy that punched through void shields like they were paper, missiles that phased between dimensions, bypassing defenses entirely, clouds of nanomachines that tried to infiltrate the Stormbreaker hulls and convert them into more Devourer ships. The first pilot died within 10 minutes of combat. His ship, the Stellar Wrath, was overwhelmed by enemy fire. Sarah felt his consciousness scream across the network as his vessel was torn apart. The pain was immediate and total. Every pilot in the fleet experienced his death. 2 more ships fell in the next 5 minutes. We can't hold them, another pilot called out. There's too many. Sarah wanted to retreat, wanted to save her fleet and fall back to a defensive position. But the colony below depended on them. 2 million people had nowhere to run. If the Stormbreaker ships fled, those people would die. We hold the line, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the chaos. We are Stormbreakers. We break the storm or we die trying. Reinforcements arrived, 30 more ships jumping in from nearby systems. The newcomers immediately engaged, their weapons adding to the hellish light show filling space around Proxima Centauri. But it was not enough. The Devourers adapted to every tactic, learned from every mistake. They coordinated perfectly, moving as a single organism with thousands of parts. When one ship was destroyed, others immediately filled the gap. When humans changed tactics, the Devourers countered within seconds. This was what the ancient humans had faced. This was why they lost. Sarah pushed the Thunderhead to its limits, drawing power from the quantum reactor faster than was safe. She fired weapons continuously until the heat sinks glowed white-hot. She maneuvered through enemy formations, using the ship's massive bulk to crush smaller devourer vessels. Around her, the other pilots fought with desperate courage. They knew they were dying. They could feel it through the quantum link, the slow erosion of their numbers. But they did not run. They had given up their humanity for this moment. And they would not waste that sacrifice. 10 ships destroyed, 15, 20. The colony below launched every civilian transport it had, trying to evacuate as many people as possible. But there was no time. The Devourers broke through the defensive line and sent attack ships toward the planet. "No," Sarah screamed. She directed the Thunderhead downward, chasing the enemy vessels as they entered the atmosphere. The ancient warship was not designed for atmospheric flight, but Sarah did not care. She forced it down through the cloud layer, using gravity manipulation to keep the massive vessel aloft. Her weapons tracked the Devourer ships, destroying them one by one before they could reach the cities below. On the surface, 2 million people looked up and saw gods fighting in their sky. The Thunderhead blazed like a falling star, its weapons painting the clouds with fire. Devourer ships exploded in mid-air, raining debris across farmland and forest. Sarah destroyed the last enemy ship just before it reached the capital city. The blast wave from its explosion shattered windows for kilometers around. But the people survived. Above, in space, the battle continued. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched from the command center at Forward Base Stormwatch. She stood beside Admiral Chen, both of them helpless to do anything but observe as the pilots died fighting. "We're losing," Chen said quietly. "No," Elena replied. "Look at the data. Really look at it." She pulled up detailed analysis of the battle. The Devourers were adapting, yes, but they were also taking damage. Real damage that they could not repair fast enough. The Stormbreaker weapons were working. It was just a matter of numbers. "If we had more ships," Elena said. "If we had the full fleet," Chen shook his head. "We can't commit everything to one battle. We need to defend Earth, the core worlds, the major colonies. If we send the entire fleet to Proxima and the Devourers attack somewhere else, millions more die. Then we need a different strategy." The battle in Proxima space lasted 8 hours. It felt like 8 years to the pilots fighting it. They experienced every second in the heightened state of consciousness that came with neural fusion. Time stretched and compressed. Death came slowly and suddenly. When the last Devourer ship finally retreated, only 32 Stormbreaker vessels remained functional out of the 50 that had fought. 18 pilots were dead. Their consciousness had been scattered across the void, beyond recovery or resurrection. Sarah Chen brought the Thunderhead back to orbit, the ancient ship's hull scarred and burning. She felt every wound like it was carved into her own flesh. The pain was immense, but she pushed it aside. The colony was safe. That was what mattered. "All ships, status report," she said tiredly. The surviving pilots checked in one by one. Their voices were hollow, shocked by the brutality of the battle. They had won, technically. The enemy was driven off. The colony survived, but the cost was almost too high to bear. "This is how we lose," one pilot said over the network. "Not in one battle, but 1,000 battles like this. They keep coming and we keep dying." Sarah wanted to argue, wanted to give an inspiring speech about humanity's resilience, but she was too tired and the pilot was right. The ancient records showed the same pattern. The old humans won battle after battle, but the Devourers never stopped. Eventually, attrition wore the ancients down to nothing. Dr. Vasquez contacted her directly through the quantum link. "Sarah, I found something in the ancient files. Something important. Why, what is it?" "The location of the Devourer manufacturing facility. It's at the galactic core, exactly where we suspected. But there's more. The ancients sent a fleet to destroy it, but they failed because they did not understand what they were attacking. The facility is not just a factory. It's a brain. The central intelligence that controls all Devourer forces across the galaxy." Sarah processed this information. "If we destroy it, the Devourer forces become uncoordinated. They lose the ability to adapt quickly. They're still dangerous, but they can be beaten. The ancients tried this. They failed." "The ancients did not have what we have," Elena said. "They did not have Earth. They did not have billions of humans supporting them." "Sarah, I found another function of the neural fusion process. The pilots are not separate from humanity. You're connected to all of us through quantum entanglement. If we can establish a full link, every human consciousness could help strengthen the pilots. Sarah felt hope for the first time since the battle started. How? The Mars artifact. It's not just a message. It's a quantum transmitter. If we activate it fully, it can link every human mind to the Stormbreaker network. The pilots will have the combined willpower of the entire species backing them. That's never been done before. No, Elena agreed. But neither has anything else we're doing. We're making history, Sarah. We might as well make it spectacular. Admiral Chen listened to the conversation and made a decision. Do it, he ordered. Activate the artifact. Link humanity to the fleet, and prepare every Stormbreaker ship for a final assault on the Galactic core. Sir, that's a suicide mission, one officer protested. I know, Chen replied, but it's the only way to win this war. The Devourers beat our ancestors through attrition. We're going to beat them by cutting off the head. Sarah felt the weight of the decision settle over her. A suicide mission to the most dangerous place in the galaxy. To fight an enemy that had never been defeated. It was madness. It was also humanity's only chance. Thunderhead to all Stormbreaker vessels, she broadcast. Return to forward base Stormwatch. Repair, rearm, and prepare for the longest jump of your lives. We're going to the Galactic core. We're going to end this. The pilots responded with grim determination. They had already given up their humanity. Giving up their lives was just one more step. Earth prepared for something unprecedented. The Mars artifact was fully activated, its quantum signal reaching out to every human consciousness across all the colonies. The storm breaks. The journey to the Galactic core took 3 weeks, even with the Stormbreaker ship's ability to fold space. The fleet moved through dark regions where stars packed so tightly together that space itself became strange and twisted. Radiation levels would have killed any normal human instantly. The pilots felt it through their ships, a constant pressure against their hulls and consciousness. 250 Stormbreaker vessels made the journey. 50 remained behind to defend Earth and the colonies. It was not enough to protect everyone, but Admiral Chen hoped the Devourers would follow the main fleet. If humanity was going to die, they would take their enemy with them. Sarah Chen led the formation, the Thunderhead sensors probing ahead for dangers. Through the quantum link, she felt the presence of billions of humans back on Earth. Their consciousness touched hers, giving strength when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. She was no longer just Sarah. She was humanity's will made manifest. The other pilots felt it too. They drew courage from the connection, knowing they did not fight alone. Every child on Earth, every parent, every dreamer and builder and artist lent their spirit to the cause. It was power of a different kind than the ancient weapons. It was the power of a species that refused to die. Dr. Elena Vasquez remained in constant contact through the quantum link. She had spent weeks studying the ancient records, learning everything she could about the Devourer facility at the Galactic core. It's called the Forge, she explained during a briefing. The ancients believed it was built millions of years ago by the first Devourers. Every machine in the galaxy is ultimately created there, or from resources harvested by machines made there. Destroy the Forge and you break their ability to replace losses. How big is it? Another pilot asked. Bigger than Jupiter. It's a Dyson sphere built around a massive black hole, drawing power from the accretion disk. The ancients sent 500 ships to destroy it. None returned. What went wrong? Elena's holographic form flickered. The Forge has defenses. Millions of automated weapons, reality anchors that prevent ships from jumping away, and something the ancients called the Apex units. Devourer ships built specifically to fight other Devourers, in case of internal conflict. They're more powerful than anything we've faced. Admiral Chen spoke from Earth, his voice carried across light years through quantum entanglement. The plan is simple. The fleet will penetrate the defense perimeter and strike at the Forge's main reactor. If we can cause a cascade failure, the entire structure will collapse into the black hole it orbits. And how do we escape? A pilot asked. Silence answered the question. Everyone knew the truth. This was a one-way mission. We don't, Sarah said finally. We give everything to make sure humanity survives. That's what we signed up for. The fleet emerged from their final jump at the edge of the Galactic core. What they saw made even the ancient warships hesitate. The Forge filled their sensors, a massive sphere that dimmed the light of 1,000 suns. It was dark metal and burning energy, wrapped around a black hole whose gravity well was visible as a distortion in space itself. Around it orbited millions of devourer ships, from small fighters to vessels that dwarfed even the Stormbreakers. "Sweet Mother of God," someone whispered over the network. Sarah felt fear ripple through the quantum connection, both from her pilots and from the billions watching through their consciousness back on Earth. For a moment, doubt threatened to break their resolve. Then a child's voice echoed through the link. A little girl from a colony on the edge of space. "You can do it. You're heroes." Other voices joined her, old and young from every corner of human space. They believed. They had faith. They lent their courage to the pilots who would fight in their name. Sarah felt strength flow back into her. "Stormbreaker fleet," she commanded. "Attack formation. All weapons free. We're going to teach these machines what humanity really means." The fleet accelerated toward the forge. The Devourers responded immediately. Millions of ships broke orbit and moved to intercept. Defensive platforms activated, filling space with weapons fire that could tear apart planets. The battle began. It was like nothing anyone had ever imagined. The scale was incomprehensible. Entire solar systems could have fit inside the combat zone. The Stormbreaker ships fired their ancient weapons continuously, each shot releasing more energy than Earth's sun produced in a year. Sarah led from the front, the Thunderhead blazing a path through enemy formations. Her gravity lances crushed hundreds of Devourer ships. Her void cannons tore holes in reality itself. Her shields flickered and held against impossible firepower. The other pilots followed, each one a legend in the making. They fought with skill learned over months of combat and courage drawn from 8 billion souls back home. When one ship was damaged, others covered it. When a pilot fell, the fleet absorbed their final thoughts and fought harder. The Apex units emerged from the forge's interior. They were massive, each one as large as a Stormbreaker vessel, but built with technology that made the ancient human ships look primitive. They moved with intelligence and purpose, targeting the fleet's strongest ships first. 3 Apex units focused on the Thunderhead. Their weapons bypassed Sarah's shields, cutting directly through multiple dimensions to strike at her hull. She felt pain explode through her consciousness as armor was torn away. "Thunderhead is hit," someone shouted over the network. Sarah gritted her teeth, though she no longer had teeth to grit. "I'm fine. Focus on the mission." But she was not fine. The damage was severe. The quantum reactor was failing. She had minutes at best before the ship tore itself apart. Through the link, she felt her father's presence. Admiral Chen was watching through the quantum connection, experiencing the battle through his daughter's consciousness. "Sarah," he said quietly, "I love you. I love you too, Dad. Take care of them. Take care of everyone." She cut the connection before he could respond. There was no time for long goodbyes. "All ships converge on the forge's main reactor," Sarah commanded. "We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. We're going right through them." The Stormbreaker fleet pushed forward, taking horrific casualties. Ships exploded in bursts of quantum energy. Pilots died screaming across the network. But they did not stop. They could not stop. Behind them, 8 billion humans lent their strength, their will, their absolute refusal to give up. 50 ships made it through the defensive perimeter. 30 reached the forge's outer shell. 20 penetrated to the interior. Sarah saw the main reactor ahead, a massive construct that channeled power from the black hole's accretion disk. It was beautiful and terrible, a monument to the Devourer's technological prowess. "All ships fire everything," she ordered. 20 ancient warships unleashed their full arsenal at point-blank range. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize a solar system. It poured into the reactor, overwhelming its shields and tearing through containment fields. The reactor went critical. Sarah felt the cascade beginning, watched as the forge's systems failed one by one. The structure began to collapse inward, pulled by the black hole's gravity. Millions of Devourer ships tried to escape, but the gravity well was too strong. "We did it," someone said over the network. "We actually did it. Now we die," another pilot replied calmly. The Thunderhead was falling apart around Sarah. The quantum reactor had failed completely. She had seconds before the ship disintegrated. Then Dr. Vasquez's voice cut through the chaos. "Sarah, the quantum link." "You don't have to die with the ships." "What?" "The neural fusion is based on quantum entanglement. Your consciousness is not just in the ship. It's distributed across the entire network." "We can pull you back." All of you! Sarah looked at the other pilots through the quantum link. Their ships were dying, their physical bodies long since merged with the vessels. But their consciousness, their essential selves, existed in the quantum field that connected them to all of humanity. Do it, she said. Save everyone you can. On Earth, Dr. Vasquez activated protocols she had discovered in the ancient files. The Mars artifact blazed with power, its quantum signal reaching across the galaxy. It grabbed the pilot's consciousness and pulled them back, dragging them through the quantum field toward home. Sarah felt herself being torn from the thunderhead. The ship that had been her body for months screamed in protest as she was ripped away. Around her, the forge collapsed into the black hole, taking millions of devourer vessels with it. The last thing she saw before consciousness faded was the black hole, blazing bright as it consumed the enemy that had threatened humanity for 50,000 years. She woke up in a medical bay on Earth, in a body that felt strange and small. It took her a moment to realize she was human again, flesh and blood instead of quantum fields and void shields. Dr. Vasquez stood over her, smiling through tears. Welcome back, Captain. The others? Sarah croaked. 70 pilots survived the transfer, 70 out of 250. But we saved them, Sarah. We brought them home. Sarah closed her eyes and reached out through the quantum link. It was weaker now, but still present. She felt the other pilots scattered across Earth, adjusting to being human again after being gods of war. She felt the vast network of consciousness that had supported them, 8 billion humans who had shared their strength. And she felt the galaxy itself, suddenly quieter,